Welcome to Newshour. Navy warships from Iran, China and Russia kicked off joint exercises in the Gulf of Oman yesterday, showing off their military ties. The annual event, known as the Security Belt, has taken on even more significance this year, with President Donald Trump disrupting previous norms when it comes to the transatlantic alliance. In response to the combined demonstration of military prowess, Mr. Trump told Fox News, "We're stronger than all of them. We have more power than all of them." Well, let's get the latest on this from Washington, D.C. with Ubay Shahbandar. Ubay, great to speak to you. Give us the latest situation then. Difficult situation for Donald Trump to respond to, but a very bullish response.
Yeah, when President Trump was asked, hey, what do you think? Are you worried about this joint military exercises being held by Russia and Iran? And, President Trump's response was, look, I'm not worried. We have the biggest military on earth, right? Those were his words. And of course, as President Trump always likes to remind everyone, we have two big oceans, the Pacific and Atlantic, separating the U.S. And I think this is, a reflection of, President Trump's, confidence that he is going to strengthen the military. That, when asked, hey, are you worried about the rising military threats of China, Russia, or at least the perceived rising military threats of these near peers, particularly with the Chinese government significantly expanding and modernizing their military forces, Trump response is that, well, look, he's going to strengthen the military. And of course, he then went on to criticize his predecessor for gutting the military, particularly following what happened in Afghanistan with that hasty withdrawal that then led to the deaths of a number of U.S. Marines and soldiers at Kabul Gate, at Abbey Gate. And, so Trump then pivoted to the negotiations that are taking place in Riyadh between the U.S. and Ukraine, and of course, with Trump is now sending his Middle East envoy to Moscow for another round of meetings with the Russian leaders. So I think this is Trump's response is really more reflective of his priorities, as like he said in that speech that he gave at his inauguration, that he wants to be remembered as a peacemaker and to avoid any direct confrontation, particularly with countries that have nuclear capability. So a measure of confidence being reflected by President Trump in the U.S. military, which according to the numbers, I mean, the budget that the U.S. military has outweighs the combined budget of the next, 8, biggest militaries on earth, and the fact that Washington's priorities under President Trump's administration seems to be reconciling, at least with Moscow. And while there is a tense relationship with China, I think President Trump really wants to focus more on trade relations and trade competition with China as opposed to direct confrontation. And lastly, President Trump sent a letter to the leader of Iran saying that he wants to resume negotiations. So President Trump, on one hand, saying, hey, the U.S. military is as strong as it has ever been under his administration, while also pursuing a policy of reconciliation and peace with some of America's adversaries.
Yeah, very interesting. Ubay Shahbandar for us there in Washington. Well, let's go to Tehran now and get the Iranian perspective from the analyst and commentator Touraj Shirililo. Touraj, great to speak to you. Thanks very much for joining us on NewsHour. Can you explain the importance of these exercises to Iran?
Thank you, Guy, for inviting me. Well, again, it can be seen as a routine operation, which has been in the pipeline for the last 7 years, as the warships of these three countries, Iran, China, and Russia, join together and carry out joint operations. And official statements said that these are for anti-piracy, anti-terrorism operations, and like attacking simulated targets, and then like search and rescue operation. But once again, what makes this operation, this year's operation, different from the last one or the previous ones, is what has happened in the matter of just 50 days. I mean, it is like 50 days that Mr. Donald Trump is in office, and he has made a lot of changes in the geopolitical atmosphere, not only regionally in this part of the world where Iran is located, but globally. First of all, he has, well, he said that he has sent a letter to Iranian supreme leader. Iran said it has not received it. But according to Trump, he has said that he wants resumption of negotiations over Iran's nuclear program, or he has threatened military action. Well, this is seen here as a resumption of the same old policy of maximum pressure campaign against Iran, which Mr. Trump has started. And Iran, of course, doesn't call it maximum pressure campaign, it calls it a bullying practice, and said that it will not negotiate under pressure or under maximum pressure. So this is number one. In 50 days, things have changed to what was the case like last year, just say last year. And it is not only Iran a specific issue. Imagine this time around, there is the war in Ukraine, and ironically, it is Russia that is emerging as a possible negotiator between Iran and the US, and said that we are ready to use our relations with both countries to intermediate between the Washington and Tehran. And this is quite ironical. This wasn't the case like 20, 30, 40 years back. And again, globally, the scene is different as there is the trade war between US and China, their Navy or maritime standoff in the South China Sea. And at the same time, this weakening transatlantic alliance between United States and the European countries and the Western world, which has made the situation quite different. And this weakened transatlantic coalition is not just like a case of tariffs, but we see that there is a rift, a deep rift between United States and European countries over the war in Ukraine. So all of this make it quite different, a very different scenario. At the same time, what is making this ongoing war games very important and significant is the geographic location that is happening. Iran it is to the southwest of Iran, southeast of Iran. It is in the port city of Chabahar. It is not only a navy base there, it's a city, and this is North Gulf of Oman. And Gulf of Oman is connecting the Indian Ocean to the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz. And as you know, this strait is strategic in the case that it's a passageway, it's a corridor of about 20% of oil shipments. At the same time, Iran's geographic advantage there, geopolitical advantage there, makes it sending a signal or a message that I'm gaining my readiness, military readiness to be here, and also overwatching the passage of or the traffic of energy from this route. All of this make it quite different to what was going on for the past years. And I think that Iran wants to, number one, strengthen or keep its training skills up, and at the same time send the signal that I'm ready for any possible encounter in future.
Touraj, Russia and China are obviously two major powers, but they're also quite different states. What is Iran's strategy for ongoing relations with these two great powers?
Iran regards China and Russia as like-minded states in the sense that these countries are like ecocentric circles with overlapping shades or overlapping interests. Of course, this is not a complete a complete unanimity between their interests. There are differences, but the overlapping parts are, and the same conditions that some of these countries are facing, like sanctions that Iran and Russia are facing, and also pressures from the Western world or the United States that all of these three countries are facing, leads to enter into partnerships in order to challenge the existing global world order or global order. And in last year, 2024, Iran entered into a strategic partnership with China, 25-year-old, for 25 years. Also, Iran signed another strategic deal with Russia, which will be in place for 20 years. Out of these partnerships, Iran wants to bolster its not only economic and trade capability, but also its security might in cooperation with as I said, with like-minded countries or countries that are under the same conditions or same pressures from the Western world. Iran joined Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Iran, which is an Eurasian alliance of countries. Iran also joined BRICS, which is now called BRICS Plus. It's with 10 member states, and out of these coalitions and partnerships, bilateral and multilateral, Iran wants to, in a sense, skirt those sanctions or low overture of those sanctions by circumventing the negative effects of sanctions, mostly from the United States and Western countries, over its nuclear program, which Iran maintains for peaceful purposes solely. And so this is a strategy coming into down and divided into different tactics. One of the tactics is like these ongoing military or Navy war games that in the Gulf of Oman. So they try to bolster not only, it's no longer an emerging partnership, but a bolstering partnership between the countries that want to challenge the existing world order, mostly dominated by the Western countries.
Very interesting indeed. Thanks very much for joining us. Touraj Tiralilo joining us there from Tehran. Now, from rugby, boxing and mixed martial arts to a busy time on the football fixture list, there's a packed schedule of international sporting events to look forward to this week. Joining us now to discuss this is the former Manchester City player and presenter of A News Show Sports Hour, Nick Summerby. Nick, thanks for joining us. Great to have you here in the studio. There's a lot going on this week, isn't there, in the world of sport?
Well, putting the Premier League to a side, because for me, Liverpool have done it. I think for everyone, they've done it 15 points clear.
Liverpool, so there's no chance of anyone else winning now?
For me, no, not at all. I mean, Arsenal have dropped points against Manchester United. They drew a few games as well. The battle really is to get into the top four and into the Champions League. Manchester City, my old club, not in the top four at the moment. Forest are flying. They beat City at the weekend. So it's Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest and Chelsea. But behind that is Bournemouth, Brighton, Villa, City. So that's quite interesting, that battle. Down the bottom, I think it's the three which have come up, are going to go down. So it shows you the gap, really, what you're getting from the Championship to the Premier League. But away from that, it's, as I said, we move the Premier League to a side. It's the Champions League, so we're into the last 16 now. Liverpool with a huge game against Paris Saint-Germain. Villa, who look like they've gone through against Club Brugge. You have to say Arsenal, this could be their season with the Champions League because they're winning 7-1 against PSV. You can't see anything going wrong with that. And it starts getting exciting then. I would imagine we will bring you the draw when that comes through after this week's fixtures, and we start getting out to the quarterfinals. It's the exciting part of the season. The only thing which is a little bit of a worry to me, Liverpool haven't been tested. I don't think the standard has been what it should be in the Premier League, and that's not being disrespectful to the likes of Forest. They've never been tested at all. So that could go into the Champions League with Liverpool. They could be really strong, and they're full of confidence as well since Arne Slot's come in.
Nick, what's happened? Why are Liverpool so far ahead of the others? Is there a simple reason behind it?
Listen, I think we can understand with Manchester City with the success what they've had, and they've been phenomenal over 10 years. Something like 18 trophies, that's just for Pep alone. So there had to be a dip at a certain point. Did I think it was going to be the dip, what it was going to be, what we're seeing now? No, not at all. But I think they can afford to have a year off. I think they couldn't, because they've been that successful. Arsenal, for me, been on the coattails of City last season, the season before as well. Did they do the right business? Did they get a centre forward in, what everyone's talking about? No, I don't think they did the right business. And what's really got on the nerves of Arsenal fans is when it got to the transfer window in January, when the time was needed to give it that little bit of a push and bring some big names in, they didn't do it. So that was a worry. After that, Chelsea, Forest, they're equal. I do keep mentioning about Forest because maybe the glory days are coming back from the old Cloughy days when they won the Champions League. It's looking like with the result against City, they've got a nice little bit of a buffer there. So what an achievement that will be, their second season in the Premier League, finishing the Champions League. And going away from that, as we look forward to the weekend, it's the Carabao Cup, which is Liverpool-Newcastle. Now, when you look at Newcastle, Anthony Gordon is suspended. They're supposed to be appealing that. He will be a huge loss. Isaac, who's got 22 goals this year, has been an absolute revelation. Hopefully he plays. They're keeping the cards tight to the chest there with that, but if he plays, we could have a game on. Liverpool, it's just time to collect. They are full of confidence. The belief is there. They've played Newcastle 17 times and not lost. So the job is to be done with Newcastle. So we've got a lot of football. We've got, as I said, the Champions League, and then we've got the Carabao Cup plus the Premier League as well at the weekend. How's that for you?
And away from football, just dragging you away from football for a minute, there has also been a really interesting development when it comes to the world of boxing and mixed martial arts. Yeah,
it's. We all know in boxing, Turki Al-Sheikh from Saudi Arabia for the last year and a half has given everybody the fights what they want. He's spent the money. He's looked at it. And how is he going to move it forward? Well, there's nothing better than bringing Dana White involved from the UFC. His company is worth 50 billion with the wrestling as well. And it's put shockwaves through. You look at your Eddie Hearns and your Frank Warrens, who are promoters. What is going to be their job in the future? You've got a fight which they're looking to do in Alcatraz, the prison, which is the famous films from in San Francisco. Times Square, there is a fight coming on. Can you imagine that there, what you'd have to do to put a fight actually in Times Square? So this is all what Saudi and what Dana White are looking at. They're looking to do a World Cup of boxing. They're looking to do, they don't want where the belts, there's too many belts for each division. So what they're doing is they're trying to get one champion from each division. But all I'm trying to say is watch this space, because big things are happening and money is getting pumped in. And the two people at the top of it, Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White, wow, they're capable of anything.
And you're now, of course, as viewers will know, an A News presenter. Your show Sports Hour coming up this week. What have viewers got to look forward to on the show this week?
But what I do is give a preview. What I will do is at the end of the Champions League, what I will do is Skype and to say so we get the cutting edge news. But I just give you the results, what have been, not just in the world of football, boxing, rugby, golf, whatever it is, whatever the news is. The best one which I've brought so far, which has got the most attention, is in Beijing with the marathon, what's going to be, and it's going to be half humans versus robots. So little bits of news which I'm looking, and these robots have got to be a certain standard. So we're covering everything, and if there's news to be had, and if there's questions, what I want answering, I want feedback as well. Sport is opinions. Sport is about, it's me and you, what you think is different than what I think. And I want people to join in. I want them to say what they think. There's a lot to talk about. So I will be finger on the pulse, and I will be bringing it to you as soon as it comes out. It's an exciting time, especially now as well, when I go back to football, is now you get into the quarterfinals, the league is finishing towards May, you've got you're challenging for the titles, relegation, but it is all happening now. So we're bringing it to you. That's what we're doing. And can I just tell you, it's great being in the studio with you.
Well, it's great to have you. It's all happening now, from the Premier League to people versus robots in a marathon. Fascinating times indeed for the world of sport. Thanks, Nick. Well, that is all we have time for on this edition of Newshour. Please do stay with us for plenty more news and analysis. And from all of us here in Baku, thank you for watching.